No, I'm good. So, no, I'm glad that we can actually have time to go through this stuff.
Sorry about that.
I think it's important. So, I'm gonna run through, kind of each item and then turn to these guys about why this is an issue, for them in their working lives. And they'll have more specific goals because they do the work.
Are you gonna go through the thing like we did the last time at the end, let everybody ask questions on points they want to ask questions about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, our Article 5, Section 1 would be striking the following sentence. In order to receive the higher rate of pay when working outside your classification, you must work in the classification for a full 8-hour day. So, we currently have an issue where, someone could be assigned work outside their classification that would be, the higher classification would be, better compensated, and, let's say they end up doing it, for 7 hours a day. Not receiving the higher rate for that. Is there anything else to flush out on that, guys? Pretty straightforward. Okay. And then you'll notice through the rest of this, there's kind of a theme around kind of safety.
You want us to ask questions as we go?
Up to you.
Or do you want to wait? Let's just wait till we're done and come back.
Excuse me. The Section 3, and this would be new, and you'll see a theme, throughout this, that we've got a lot of, health and safety issues, and that's what a lot of this is tied to. So employees shall not be required to do work that they have not been trained on for a 2-week period. Employees hired into positions where Class A CDL is not required shall not be required to perform work that requires a Class A CDL. Such employees may still perform this work at the employer's request only by mutual agreement between the employer and the employee. And I want to be clear on this, wording like this and this proposal isn't about getting out of, people out of work because they think it's hard. It's a safety issue when you have, people that, even if they, that they're hired with, where they don't need a Class A, they end up later, then moving up to a Class A, and then, can be put in a position where they're doing work that they have not been familiar with for the majority of their career. But, their DOT legally allows them to do it. And you had a pretty good example on that here the other day.
CDL to get hired. I run a road grader for 20 years. And then the engineer was mad at me because I wouldn't get in a dump truck and drive it to Waterloo. I've never driven a dump truck. I just wasn't comfortable doing it.
But you do have your CDL.
I do have my CDL, but I never drove a truck. I always run a road grader. And send a guy to Waterloo and
It's, there's a reason that, with, employers that do, say, it's a dump truck or, whatever, also, do that on the highway is, ever so, and I'm being a little sarcastic, more than ever so slightly different than road grader on, a secondary road.
something to please bring the car out. That's one thing. Waterloo.
So the CDL is required for the road grader, or?
Yeah. For all.
Class B. So a lot of folks are hired in with Class Bs.
All you need.
Yeah, and then we'll maybe end up, getting Class A for.
Well, we have, so some guys get hired in the class, some guys already have a Class A.
Yeah.
And then, so we have that rock trailer, and then we have the low boy. And pulling that excavator down the road, or dozer down the road, or, it's
Different than a box of grain.
different. Well, it's different than the rock in the dump truck, it's a little more stress. I mean, things can slide and move, that if the rock trailer, you're going to Iowa City with it, you get rocks, that's where we get most of our rock out of is. Down there's Conklin and Klein, so you get off on First Ave or head north, and that rat trap there is now, or the one down by Lowe's, so it's not, and it's busy all the time. So if you're not comfortable doing it, don't send a guy to do it. And that's where this stems from.
Yeah. And that's also where, the proposal around, being required to do work they have not been trained on for a 2-week period.
So you're saying like the normal guy maybe is sick or off, and then he says to Benji, the boss says.
Well, I don't have my, so,
well,
but if I did, he'd be like,
saying to the other guy, hey,
take that to Iowa City. And the guy's like, he didn't feel comfortable with it, and he was told, just go slow. Well, they got the tipping, and the rear tire valve fell off because the wheel bearings went out.
Yeah,
So-
slow down.
Yeah, so,
Which is also something, if you're, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I mean, if that's your piece of equipment on a routine basis, you might catch something like that on a pre-trip.
But it needs to pass around.
Because you're, that's
It's
it's
just
equipment
not-
that you're comfortable with, and if it's, equipment that you're not familiar with, you might not, pick that up on a pre-trip, walk around, the vehicle. So, and, I would hope that, if, I would hope that the county would agree to this or something similar, but, the hope would be not that we have guys, doing less work. The idea is it puts some burden and incentive on the employer to actually make sure that people are, trained on that work, so we don't have, hey, you can legally do it, so,
What keeps, okay, devil's advocate.
Yeah.
What keeps everybody from saying we're not comfortable?
I think, I think it's a good question, and I think, and when we get to the overtime and standby pay, it kind of feeds into the kind of commitment that these guys have in the county going above and beyond. And I'm also, I'm open to other wording, that puts in something about, that have a good faith, safety objection, because they're not familiar. Or we could modify that somehow, but the intent certainly isn't to do that. And, that means that devil's advocate, we could then have, them actually get trained on more pieces of equipment and have that flexibility that they have now, but that flexibility not being at the expense of safety. That's the issue.
Well, we have 4 or 5 guys that are comfortable hauling their equipment, but they ask somebody who isn't.
No, but I'm saying they could do it also then.
Well,
There's gotta be, there's gotta be,
But if they've done it routinely,
if they've routinely done it.
they've,
so it has to be worded that way, otherwise it's gonna be like,
Well, we can word it that
But-
way.
So they retune, so you got guys that have routinely filled in on a mutual agreement.
Yeah.
But the thing with it is that rock truck and that trailer, if it didn't say Iowa County on the side of it, it wouldn't pass. I mean,
So who
it's
gets-
30 years old.
Who gets inspected? Does it get inspected by anybody?
That's not my.
that's not designated somebody's truck.
And you can tell by looking at it, it's not a Tony gun, but it really don't get taken care of.
Is there normal guys that drive it, and is their job description to drive it?
No.
I think they just ask, want somebody to jump in and if there's, like I say, we've got 4 or 5 guys that will run it, but, they're not going to expect it, they're not gonna take.
I mean, we haven't, since the wheel valve fell off, we have a new, which I can't believe we never had this before, like a checklist, you're supposed to sign your name on it, what time you checked it,
Pre-trip.
pre-trip, which
Does every truck have one of those?
as of like 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna
I thought
say,
they-
every dump truck should have that.
Prior to,
I figured they did too.
Yeah.
Just like school bus.
Yeah.
I
Right down the
I thought that was law.
And even the road graders should have.
Yeah, everybody has it, just, now we do.
The road graders do too. That's good.
I was very unpleasantly surprised when I found that out, just and,
And some people fill them out and some don't.
Oh, yeah, that's the next thing.
Right.
But, the truck, like, the truck that a driver is assigned to, we will maintain it and take care of it.
Oh, yeah.
It ain't like he just jumps in and goes and hopes everything's all right. They check it out.
Well,
He's just unassigned
I
vehicle.
guess I would like to see a mechanic doing that part then, taking care of that truck.
Well, even if
I
I
don't
don't
think
jump in
we're-
an unassigned one, I want to do a checklist on it to make sure it's okay.
Right.
It's a truck, especially a truck I don't normally drive.
I mean, I'm sure the routine, check the oil, fluids, kick the tires.
Is there a name for this truck besides that everybody calls it normally?
I don't know, every vehicle has a number, like Michael H203.
Right, but this is a designated.
Right, it still has a county sticker on the side of it.
Right, but it's not your truck, it's not your truck,
It's just the county's.
do you have multiples of those?
We have that one in the low boy, so we have the red one's the low boy truck and the white one's the rock truck.
Okay.
The red one's a lot nicer than the white one.
Most day cabs, nothing.
Yeah, nothing crazy. But, that's just how it goes.
And I think when we had met, earlier in our preliminary meeting, whatever, I think it was on this item. Yeah, I believe it was on this item. I think Kevin, you had talked about kind of listing out pieces of equipment, and we talked about that a little bit, and I'm not fundamentally opposed to it. I guess my hesitation on it is, having language around specific pieces of equipment that exist now that, if these guys are potentially working with different pieces of equipment in the future, just as the equipment for the work falls. But, if there's anything else on that, for all ears, if not Article 11. Okay. So this we've kind of talked about conceptually for a couple of years, standby pay. So this is one of the few groups that I deal with, and again, this kind of goes to the third level of commitment to the county. Currently, if these guys are not on the schedule, they have no obligation to come in. Like, so, but they do, because they actually, care about, I think they're proud of their department, and they, care about actually taking care of the folks that live on your secondary roads. So the fact that hasn't happened ever over the course of time, when people just didn't answer their phone on a Saturday is surprising. But these guys also make really big sacrifices, particularly this time of year, to make sure that they're not out of town if they think that there's going to be a weather event, and make changes to family plans, based on that, and are not compensated on it. So the proposal is employees shall receive 10% of their hourly rate per hour for all times spent on standby. Employees who are called back will be paid the applicable rate of pay for all hours worked, so just what they would have worked if they're actually scheduled to work. If an employee on standby is called in and is unavailable, all standby pay for that period will be forfeited. So I get put on standby, starting end of shift Friday until beginning of shift Monday, or maybe just for Saturday if someone else is on standby for Sunday, whatever it is. For some reason they don't come in. All that standby pay that you received is forfeited. But I mean, we've talked about examples of years where this has come up in years in the past, but we were just talking about some examples just for the recent storm. Do you want to talk about where you ended up taking the weekend here a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, during the storm, I knew there was no way I was gonna get home and make it back in, so I just stayed out at the yard site, slept in the, there in the chair. There was another guy who worked out of there, did the same thing. We had guys in Millersburg did the same thing, so we could be here and get the roads opened up. Just, what are you gonna do?
Right, I took one home with me for 2 days, Drew, he couldn't get home. And he's like, I'm just gonna stay here. I'm like, no, come to my house. But he left his wife and 3 kids 3 miles deep in the gravel road, but I mean, and sometimes, I coach wrestling, I do, and then you get put on, you're gonna be gone this weekend? Yeah, I've known about like state wrestling last year, we had that storm, I was out of town, I knew about that, had the hotel rented, I knew about that. These kids I've known about, for months, as they're dating, just after the fall. So, and you do miss some stuff, but.
And I just, I'm not, I deal with 25 something employers, forever. That's kind of a level above and beyond that I just don't run into at a lot of places. And I think that also is the difference between kind of private sector and public sector. These guys really do look at their job as serving the public. And it's also why Kevin, and I absolutely appreciate the kind of, devil's advocate, to the previous thing when people refusing work based off of not comfortable. It's a good question. This is a group of people that are already staying over each other's houses or sleeping at the yard site, when they think there's snow. I mean, that's a level of commitment that I think is really impressive and I think should be compensated. And I think the county is honestly lucky and should be grateful. That is the group of folks, that they have, and, work ethic, I think, changes generationally. I'm sure people have an opinion on how work ethic and that kind of commitment has changed over time. I'd hoped that, as folks who hire, new hires have the same attitude towards the county. But I don't know if that's guaranteed necessarily either, but, spending the weekend away from, leaving your wife and 3 kids, at the end of gravel road that, because you need to serve the rest of the folks in the county. I think that the household should be compensated for that. So I think that's straightforward.
And obviously,
Anything else you
it won't be it'd be like, obviously the winter time will be your, new storms coming. And I think our snow policy, I don't even know our hours, is it 4 to 6?
Or sunset.
Okay, because that first night, me and Drew got called back in at 1 o'clock.
Did you want to work on them?
No, because some lady was stranded in the road, the cops couldn't get to her, which is another thing we need to address. Cops couldn't get to her. So I had to get my blade, head south out of Parnell to find her, because she was going into hypothermia. Drew had to go through North English. He didn't know if the pavement was drifted shut, the ground was drifted shut. Harley Schumacher was coming from the yard site in a blade. He didn't know, they just gave him a vague address. He didn't know where it was, so we kind of got backtracked. And yep, there she was in the middle of the road. We got to her and the cops, but, so, 1 o'clock, we're supposed to be in at 7. And luckily for me, Drew was there because my cell phone went out of me that Friday night, which was one of the greatest things that ever happened in that storm because it was pretty quiet in the cab. But he had to call my wife, and I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, Drew's downstairs, you have to talk to him. I go down, and he's like, we gotta go to work, like 1 o'clock, we're supposed to be in at 7. And that's where we're at. So, and then to stay out in it until 6 that night, 6:30 or whatever it was. Know that everything you did was gonna be gone the next day because the way the wind was blowing. So
They sent 3 of you out for that one person? Was that necessary, do you think?
her car was, well,
And it
she's
comes
not dead.
different directions.
She's not dead, so it probably was necessary. I mean,
All 3 came from different directions.
what happened was, she had half a tank of gas, she got stuck in a drift, it was a big drift. I mean, when we got done, she was right in the yellow line, straddling the yellow line. Snow, I don't know, snow was above her doors. She rocked the pickup, plugged the exhaust, killed it. So she had no heat for 3 hours. So, the wind was screaming through there, and it wasn't like a brand new pickup. It had some, holes in it where the air was getting through. So, was it worth it? Yeah, I think,
So your point on it is that, you got called out at 1,
but no matter what, I've been,
regular time or overtime.
it was overtime.
Yeah, so you're saying that prior to that, maybe you should have been on call status,
Right, well,
or
everybody,
standby status.
right. Because a lot of times, you will cancel your plans because you think the weather's gonna be bad. And the weather,
Unpredictable.
right. So then you could be like, wow, so like for me, for a blade, usually we don't go out unless there's, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 inches or ice. If it's icy, then you go out. But, so then you're like, oh, they're calling for 6 inches. So then you're like, all right, I guess we're staying up now. We call in the morning and you wake up and there's 2.5. And like, gravel are fine. They can get through the gravel, not a big deal. Nothing's ripped, the ditches are empty. Now they're full. So it's, now if we got up to 3 inches of snow, it'd probably be something different just because there's all that snow out there.
So on this standby, the event hasn't started yet.
Right.
But you got a prediction of 8 inches of snow overnight.
Mhm.
So what I'm getting is what you're indicating is you're told, okay, you're on standby because we're gonna need you tomorrow.
Mhm.
So then the event starts and it ends up being a 3-day event. Are you thinking that when you go home the next night, you should still be on standby?
But we'd already know we're going in by then, right?
Okay, so
Right.
that's what I'm getting
And
at.
before that.
So you're not gonna be on standby when you go home at sundown, knowing you're coming out again tomorrow.
Well, I think the way we talked about it last time, we would only be on standby for our snow hours. So we wouldn't get like the whole week, because we know our snow hours,
And I
our
think,
snow policy, I should say.
and you go with John or Jonathan?
What's that?
Do you go with John or Jonathan?
John?
So I think John, and this is also, I think, Yeah, I mean, we can go over, obviously, going over this report, I think some of the detail to your question too, I think is something that needs to be addressed with the county engineer, right? Because, yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the county engineer is gonna set who's on standby, and when they're on standby. I mean, we have a conception of it, but, you know, that's where I think it has to be kind of a collaborative conversation with the engineer.
And standby's only on the weekends, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Because otherwise you don't plow it.
Weekend holiday maybe.
No.
Or holiday.
I mean, you get called out sometimes in the middle of the night in the summertime, like for flooding or
Wind damage.
Tree on order.
tree on the road, or, you know, like,
Yeah, but you can't,
Yeah.
you can't predict it.
you can't figure.
And that's-
But you feel like you're gonna be getting time and a half, right?
Yeah.
If you're called out.
How often, if ever, remind me, we talked about it, are you guys getting called out after hours in the winter, during the week?
Whoever does it, and
Emergency.
Yeah.
It'd have to be an example like yours, probably, like the window stuck.
Or the, or you have a whole cop out.
Right. Yeah.
So is it the engineer's the one that's sending you guys out? I thought the road superintendent, wasn't that?
It ain't.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's that, I'm just confused. I want to make sure I'm clear. It's Mr. Hawk that decides who's going out, when, where, or is it Nick?
It's Tim. Sometimes they make no we're out.
Yeah, well, that's why I was just clarifying.
Right, no, yeah, no.
Okay, because it was the engineer, so I'm like, I thought it was the superintendent.
Oh,
And I don't,
okay.
okay, I don't know if Tim and Nick talk. Tim has never said, hey, I talked to Nick this one. He has never, so I don't want to assume that it's just, but if I was a guessing guy, I would, it's Tim.
I would think
Okay.
most times it's like the sheriff's office will call Tim and he'll call one of us. But if it's the public, they will usually call like whoever will answer, like they might call Nick and then Nick will call Tim. Tim will tell one of us to go.
Yeah, and I had to do that for
That's
somebody that was
kind
on
of,
feed,
you know,
yeah,
90% of the time it's Tim.
Yeah, that's something that I thought about too.
yeah.
That's another thing to talk about.
So if you don't answer, it's just a hypothetical, you don't answer your phone, we're not on standby.
Right.
He'll just drop a call to the next person. Take-
Well, like, yeah, somebody that, no, right. Because he told Drew actually that night of that thing, you gotta get Benji's machine. He didn't know Drew was at home. You need to go get Benji's machine. Drew's like, why you call Benji? He goes, because my
Right.
phone.
So yeah, he just goes to the next person.
And Drew's like, let me go. I'm at his house. So
So
Drew's
like,
not comfortable running. He's not mad, he's not.
Right.
He hasn't put enough hours on it.
so mostly it's like on the weekend, you said, so like a snow event's coming up for the weekend. Would all of you be on standby? Because, I mean.
I think it all depends, like if they, so the way I'm looking at it is, like I said, usually a blade doesn't go out, blades usually don't go out. This would be more for the truck drivers,
Yeah.
like a skip of snow or stuff like that. The blades don't go out for little stuff. You know, the bigs, I'm gonna say big, 4 inches, 3 to 4 inches. I don't know what the actually.
But trucks might come up with a, like I said, a skip, it gets
Right.
stuck in snot or something.
Right.
So if they designate like 3 or 4 guys and say you guys are on standby tonight.
Just the truck
No,
drivers.
all the trucks,
Yeah.
because there's 150 miles of pavement, 750 gravel, so.
Oh, okay, I was kind of thinking of this where you went out to get this girl.
Oh, no, that would just be,
Be different.
that, you can't get on standby for that, that's just.
It's just for the event. So you do, how many trucks are there?
There's 10 tandems, 2 single axles, two plow pickups, so,
It's about 14 guys.
but the pickups and the single axles do like in towns like Amanas and stuff, and sometimes those, they don't catch the wind like they can, like the open roads get, so sometimes he calls them out just for like, they need to go sand them because they're slick, little glaze of ice or frost or blowing across the stick.
So it could be anywhere from 8 to 14 guys, depending on the event.
I apologize for coming in late. I'm Alan Schumacher, but is this only for an event of a potential
Yes.
storm, or is this,
Probably not doing this in June.
Right.
okay, so it's only in the event of a potential forecast that may encourage the need for,
Guys that stick around on the weekends.
okay.
Was that-
Let me
was that-
ask you this then, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, finish your.
Let me ask you this, and what does the state DOT do? I'm just curious what their what they do.
I think they run 20, I think they run, you know, they run interstate 24/7.
But do they have this, I'm just trying to understand.
I think they have
a
more than one
standby?
shift. I think they have more than one
During
shift.
this time of year, they go.
Okay, so they got multiple shifts,
Yeah.
whereas we don't.
Right.
And so the other question, and maybe this is a union question, and you can't do that, I don't know, but is it such a thing as having multiple people trained to assume a routes? So we'd have multiple shifts and eliminate this and save the taxpayers money. That's all I'm
Well, no.
going for.
But
To do that, you'd have to hire more employees, more benefits, more vacation. more
I'm talking
stuff.
cross-training.
Well, we're all cross-trained,
Oh, okay.
except for the new graders. A lot of these new graders, I can't run one, and I run a road grader for 20 years.
Their joysticks or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no way I can climb up and down.
Basically, if they divided them into 2 shifts, they would have half as many guys doing the same miles of road. In those 12, so.
I mean, the current system lets them kind of flex up and flex down depending on conditions. But because that's obviously gonna be unpredictable, that's, you know, the waiting to see if that's gonna happen just ends up being.
To answer your question, I'm always over at the DOT. So if they have a snow start on a Friday afternoon, basically they pick a crew and they say, you guys go home right now. These guys will stay out till midnight, then the next crew comes back in, or whatever time it is. So they immediately tell guys that are already there, you're gonna be working over this day. And then the rest go home right away to come out later that day.
And,
They've done it for years that way.
and I'll give you an example of, you know, and again, I think it's a matter of scale, you know, on the amount of county employees versus say, a state DOT or say Davenport Public Works. I deal with Davenport Public Works. Now there's, don't quote me on it, I want to say like 120, 130 guys over there. That's like ever so slightly different scale than here, but they split everybody into what they call red team, blue team, and then green team. Red and blue team are folks that are in the streets department. Green team is anybody that's in, you know, maybe do solid waste, but you know, still got CDL. So, you know, green team never goes in until it's an absolute disaster. But, you know, red and blue, they alternate, you know, hey, you know, today is, you know, it's blue team day, next day is, you know, red team. You know, whatever, but that's what, you know, staffing about it.
So Kevin, you would be on the green team.
I would also,
But the state also advertises for part-time people to help during the winter for snow. Is that something that we could do here?
you know, put a part-time person in a road grader with 75 miles to,
Not looking for,
I don't
yeah, I'm
think
just.
it's-
Okay, no, I'm not-
Throwing this out. I don't know what they do. I'm just saying this is what they do too. I don't know.
I don't think he wants somebody else running your route.
Who would,
You know,
Who would
road
designate-
graders, you throw out somebody that's part-timer in an $800,000 road grader, I'm not too much in favor of it. But if you're driving a plow truck, like what they drive plow trucks, I don't know. I'm new to this game.
right, it's,
I don't know who you're gonna, like, what the quality of those folks are gonna be. I mean, that's, you know, and I don't live in this county. I mean, I have to worry about what Johnson County does for, secondary road maintenance.
And you're,
But what's that?
I always point to you, sorry. There, point to you. So you're only on standby until you get called in, then you're at work, right?
right. So basically, if I don't get called in, then I still have to, you know, like, you never know. So you're gonna hang out at home.
Right, but I mean, if the snow doesn't show up to 10 o'clock, you're on standby to 10 o'clock.
Then you're called in.
And then you're on the hour, on the clock.
And the folks that would designate, you know, who's not on call and when, I think that's gonna be, I mean, whether it's the engineer, whether it's this draft, I mean, it would be management. It would be,
Right, it's not
you know,
us.
Yeah, or them. I mean, they wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be our guys, you know, raising their hand going, oh, the weather looks bad, I'm going to self-dispatch to be on standby. I mean, that's gonna be, you know, directed by somebody.
Another thing about, you know, this, when we get called in, it ain't like we run our roads once and go home. 9 times out of 10, they're blowed back shut by the time we're coming through to clear the other lane.
Oh, no, it's, yeah,
It's an endless
it's all,
battle.
it's all day. I mean, that last storm was SOB.
Yeah, it's an endless battle, especially for the truck driver. Maintainers too, yeah, you know, you got 75 miles with a maintainer and you're running 10, 12 miles an hour. You'd be lucky to get over them once.
I was wondering how fast you guys went.
Yeah, it just kind of depends on the road. We got roads that you can't go 3 miles an hour on when it snows, and we got other roads you can go 15. It just, you know, Benji, when I run the same out of Benji, different, same shop, different territory. I could be over my territory and have it, you know, a wing and blade wide, and then I'd go down in Benji's and help him get his opened up for the first time. And then I'd go back into mine and widen out, just to help him get, you know, make sure everybody could at least get out.
I wonder how sore you guys were when you're ramming into those drifts.
Yeah, sometimes it can be, you know, and then you get yelled at because, well, you hit the mailbox. Well, your mailbox was under 6 foot of snow, sorry, buddy.
It's funny.
I think we all got a mailbox call, you know what, I think all of our answers are the same, you know, deal with it, we gotta get through
I
this.
just replaced mine this morning.
Just had, yeah, my phone's off, but
Yeah, people's priorities, they, you know, in a storm like that, they're me, you know, it's me. You.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm first, why not me?
No, I got those calls.
We even
yeah,
had somebody, we had somebody walk up to one of the new operators and yank the door open. Because they weren't going fast enough for them.
my territory.
What would happen when you, what happened in your job, somebody did that to you?
Report that to the
You
sheriff.
know, and we got to stand
If you
there.
touch it, you should call. I was in your territory all the time.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
So,
It was
I've
bad.
been flipped off and called names more times than I could ever count.
do we
The
have
other day.
do we have an idea what the projected cost would this be per year? Because we have no idea what the number of snows, right?
I think that's where you'd have to sit down, you know, with the department and just look at, you know, what, and probably it would be good to sit down with these guys too and kind of look back at what weekends were you staying at home.
I don't care if I
But
get
this
called in ever
is-
again this year, to be honest.
Well, so
But this is, but like, okay, so I'm guessing it's probably what, a month and a half long period, probably? Roughly, it obviously depends on the year, where you're kind of in that wait and see mode. So a month and a half worth of weekends, kind of, you know,
You're
point
not-
one.
But again, it wouldn't be assigned until we know there's a measurable event.
Right,
Projected
correct.
snowstorm.
It'd be mostly for the trucks. It's gonna be mostly for the trucks.
So if you look
Because you
at
gotta
that,
have it fall on that Saturday, Sunday, mostly for the truck drivers.
if you look at it this year, probably we've been 2 times now.
Probably.
I was gonna say, this one, yeah, once you got called out, you didn't come back anyhow.
No. No, so that, I mean, that basically, more than 80% of the time would be for the trucks, would be my guess, just because they're the ones that get called in for the smaller amounts. You know,
The sanding and the salt on it.
I mean, and it's gotta land on the weekend.
So help me, oh, you were gonna say
So
something.
I just say the trucks get called in on a heavy frost.
I think this is more than being called in, this is making sure that there's somebody here on the weekend when the snow hits.
Making sure.
It's not getting
that
called out, it's
Right.
making sure somebody's here on the weekend to come out when the snow starts.
Well, you know, the storm we had, and George was gone, the other mechanic was sick, he wasn't good, so we were down to 2 mechanics. And we went down 2 blades, trucks were breaking, I mean, it was cold, and we were running hard, and I feel sorry for Jacob, right, or is it Joey? I call him Joey, that's Jacob, I think it's Jacob. Him and Tyler, I mean, they were running, I mean, I felt sorry for him, I didn't wanna call him in for nothing. You know, hey, I broke a shoe on a blade, gotta come fix it.
They're your mechanics.
Yeah, and there was 2 of them taking care of 20-some pieces of equipment.
If it's helpful, you know, I think, and when we have brought this up, but I think in a much looser kind of worded proposal, I think, when we had a reopener, and just like, well, we're doing reopeners, we're gonna sit down and let's bring it up. But like, I'm getting the impression, like, it's kind of a, you know, new concept. What it could do, if it's helpful, and if it's not, like, I won't waste my time. I could provide copies of other contracts where we've, you know, got, you know, language around standby pay. I will say, and, you know, and we sat down with different, copies of, contracts for standby pay. The wording on this, we had to kind of redo ourselves because, it is kind of a specific environment with the level of staffing you have, like the Davenport Public Works standby pay is gonna make 0 sense, you know, for this group, like it's structured differently. But just so you have a sense of just kind of, you know, the fact that it is not an uncommon, you know, thing for people to have to do this kind of seasonal work. And the pay itself is in that ballpark. So I wanna say it's, most of my groups, it's either a dollar amount or a percentage. I think everywhere I have it, that's a percentage. It's 10%, and then everywhere it's a dollar amount. It works out to be roughly 10% of what folks, base hourly rate is. But if that's helpful as a reference, let me know, and if it's not.
So hypothetically, this weekend, nothing's in the forecast, right? So nobody's be on standby pay this weekend, but let's just say Sunday when we wake up, we got a hell of a frost, it's slicker, it's not. Truck drivers don't have to go in, are they gonna be upset because everything gets standby pay done?
Well, then you're gonna think who's available.
Right.
Yeah, like it is now.
Right.
I mean, just it depends what they get.
So, but we couldn't get upset, we didn't get standby
Right.
pay, I guess,
Leave what-
with the
Because they-
designated.
Like, we're not
We
standby.
don't want frost. I think that's our policy. We don't want frost.
Well, if we get a half inch. of-
Right.
That wasn't enforced.
Something unforecasted.
Yeah,
Right. It's unforecast, I mean,
so
That don't mean they don't
I'm
have
not
to
saying
pick
this
up.
wouldn't cause problems, and
no. I don't want to call it.
I know, I understand that, but if you'd say if you did, it wasn't standby, you weren't on standby, but.
Freaking house is warm.
I think standby is different than call.
Right, I'm just making sure that it wouldn't be
Standby
upset.
means they would be ready for that Sunday.
Right.
Right,
Where some of them may be ineligible to operate the equipment because of maybe whatever they've done the night before, or didn't get any sleep, or.
It is a weekend only thing.
yes.
Pretty much, it's gonna be just keep you around, somebody locked into the weekend.
I could see
We
it
don't want
during floods.
We don't want somebody with half a dozen vodkas in them, right?
No,
During
no, that's
flooding,
not
it
what
could
you
come
want.
up as
Yeah,
I
well.
mean, it holds the operator responsible.
You got projected water rise overnight. I mean, I can see occasionally it might come into effect when you have flooding and stuff
Right.
too.
That only affects the guy.
But that might be just a call-in because
That's the sign guy, that's the
Is there
other.
any other time besides a weekend where it would apply?
Holiday.
Maybe like a holiday, like.
Christmas.
Christmas,
New Year's.
New Year, like if it's a,
There's a few Christmases you did get called.
yeah,
Oh,
kids love me that day. Let me take a nap first, then we'll open presents.
I mean, that's why you used to have the Christmas parties, and they gave up because you were always out.
And nobody wanted to show up, and we turned it into safety.
yeah.
Okay, in the past.
past.
Okay, any other questions? Let's move on to the next step, please.
Yeah, all right. So these are probably more straightforward. I think so supplemental pay, longevity, you go to longevity, scale. Yeah,
Oh, he didn't give one. Here, I got it. You give me yours. Yep. There's 2 sheets.
so there's that longevity scale, in the contract. I mean, this is straightforward. It's, adding 10 cents, each step of that scale, and then, eliminating that, 36-year, step. The employees will receive working foreman pay when perform work requiring a CDL Class A configuration of the shift. You guys want to kind of fill in?
Right, I mean, so like a working foreman, it's Harley's job. I mean, he's a working foreman. So these guys don't have their Class A, or they have their Class A, and then you want them to do it, which I think, I don't have it, so, but I helped load that excavator, the dozers, the tractor, the sheep's foot, and you gotta drive it from, let's say, north of Wildman to Belle Plaine. That's a pretty big responsibility. You got a lot of money behind you in that, and it's that rock truck driving that Class A CDL. When we're all hired here, they just required a Class B. So now you're using your own, most of these guys haul grain for farmers or, just a side gig. They have their Class A, so, I mean, if you're gonna make them use it, you might as well bump it up a little bit. And it's, I don't know what the pay difference is.
Working foreman right now, starting 7/1/2023 is, I didn't think I'd get my glasses today, 3109.
You're talking a couple bucks.
Yeah.
For that 8-hour shift.
You're
But it also makes them, all right, and that kind of takes away the guy saying, nah, I'm not gonna do it.
I was gonna just say that kind of falls back in with this mutual agreement.
Right, oh yeah, I'll do it for that,
Incentive to do it.
right,
And you're a machine operator, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so machine operator right now is, 2974. Grab glasses in case numbers come up later.
I might have, like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I had to actually say that.
No, I'm good. I got my just.
And there's only 2 of them trucks that we have that would
Rock truck and the,
low, which would, so I mean, it isn't, I mean, and the low boy doesn't, there's, what I want to say, some guys, he, with grade, he has a lot of guys, a few guys do it, and he has some guys that he doesn't have to do it, because they just say, we're not comfortable doing it,
If he drives the truck for an hour, he gets paid, he gets that paid the whole day.
you're not gonna just drive it for an hour. I mean,
Just
like,
moving a big piece of equipment is usually 3 hours, but
I mean, Drew this
drive
morning-
there, load it, strap it down, take it to where it's gotta be, unload it, get the thing, but we get the truck back to where it started, you're 3-4 hours in.
I mean, Drew
It's
this
never
morning
just down the street block, you know, it's always across town.
went down to gravel with the excavator, because we got some big brush piles down by Kitty Chines, and he was east of Parnell, or west of Parnell. And gravel there, they're soft. I mean, you meet someone, you gotta have a guy in front of you going down the gravel, or one behind you, that way,
Take up the road.
right, you take the whole road, because you don't want to dare get over.
but they are better than I thought they were gonna be.
Yeah, yep, they are.
I'm
Yeah.
shocked.
Right,
Sons are soft.
So how would that, fall in with the first one up here where you strike the following? In order to receive the higher rate of pay when working outside your classification?
So that issue specifically, and I think this, I think when we were putting this together, those had to be paired together. We couldn't do one without the other. Specifically, it's it's the issue with having it being a full 8-hour day.
So like, if this guy did this for 4 hours on his timesheet, I suppose you have a code that says what you did.
Yeah.
So for that 4 hours, you would get
So they could be 8 for 8
You
hours.
just get to the full 8.
for the,
Because when I do mine, I mean, it's 8 hours of bleeding. You know, you don't say, well, I pre-trip for 30 minutes, came back in, filled up for 30 with the depth and the diesel, and then bladed, you don't put on 7. You know,
And John, to your question, so just the full context of Article 1, Section, or Article 5, Section 1, that first bit that we're striking that sentence from. Try to read this quickly. In the event that some employees are required to perform duties not specifically or generally called for in their general job description, every effort will be made to assign such employees to similar related work within 15 calendar days. An employee put in a higher wage classification shall receive the higher rate of pay for the classification for the period of time spent in that classification. So I think that's talking about, like, you end up getting assigned to that for like a week, right? When an employee is training for a higher job classification, the employee shall receive the higher rate of pay on the first working day of that classification. And then the sentence that's being struck, in order to receive the higher rate of pay when working outside your classification, you must work in the higher classification for a full 8-hour day. So it's just getting rid of that 8-hour stipulation. But there's language previous that talks about them being higher.
thanks.
Yep. And so, yeah, it looks like it's $1.76 difference between working foreman and machine operator or equipment operator. Anything else on wages, Article 14? So we're proposing, an 11% increase in the first year, then reopeners in year 2 and 3. There's a couple things for context on that. One, I typically, prior to spring of 2020, I was not crazy about wage reopeners. And then the world went kind of upside down, whatever, economically. There's contracts that we negotiated in, say, 2018, 2019, where we thought we did, really well for, say, like a 4-year agreement or a 3-year agreement. And then all of a sudden people are, paying, $6 for eggs and, just inflation went kind of crazy. So, having reopeners, I think, leaves some flexibility, I think, for both parties. That depending on, what the economy does, and it's, I think interest rates are probably, sounds like, not going to change again soon. And then 11%, that's also, you know, again, prior to, spring of 2020. You know, it used to be that when I was, you know, people would come up with proposals like 11%, like that would be my job in that proposal meeting to be the bad guy and go, okay, you know, look, guys, not saying that you're not worth it, not saying you don't deserve it, but like, let's kind of, you know, be a little more reasonable. I'm looking at, you know, these kind of 1 year proposals or proposals on year one for wages. Most of our groups, kind of framed it as a market adjustment more than anything else. I mean, these guys, you know, I think fallen behind in buying power over the last few years and need something to be able to catch them up. And, you know, if we're, you know, close in that ballpark, on year one, unless something very strange economically happens, you know, we're probably not gonna, you know, if the county were to do something close to that, you know, I don't think we'd be talking about 11% opening proposals 1 year, 2 and 3. Is, you know, market adjustment, you know, from the get, and then we can kind of talk about, you know, kind of going back to sort of normal increases.
I think last year the arbitration was 3 and we gave 6.
Mhm.
So I don't know if we're really falling behind.
The buying power over the last, you know, 5 years for these guys is less, they've not kept up. And I appreciate, you know, that, you know, last year with, you know, he could have gone down to 3 and did 6. You know, inflation was still higher than that. And, you know, on that, I mean, Kevin, to your point about the way that they end up doing that CPI, that consumer price index for urban workers, deal, I was having problems wrapping my own head around it, so, we invited an economist from the University of Iowa to come to this staff meeting and explain how the hell did they come up with this formula. The way the state of Iowa puts together that chart that you're referring to is measuring it, let's say for the month of January, is measuring it January of 24 to January of 23. But then, you know, it doesn't account for, you know, if you've got a multi-year agreement, all that number is just a difference from 1 year to the other. You've got a 3-year agreement, you're gonna have more of a cost of living increase, you know, for the 3-year period.
But I think we've been going off 1 year agreements, haven't we, for several years now?
For the last couple, yeah.
We use the federal rate when we calculate COLAs, right? Yeah, we go off the federal rate,
Calculate what?
the cost of living,
The cost of living is federal rate, but the rate that they go off to is a state rate.
So, well, you're both right. So the feds are the ones that do the calculation that for CPI. Safety is important and that people should refuse things when they're, you know, cutting branches up, you know, in the bucket of the backhoe. And, you know, I mean, alternative to this is, you know, we could send out a flyer to everybody that represents saying, here's what OSHA says about, you know, your ability to refuse work. But I think it's, you know, for it to be something that we mutually agree on and have a unified message on that. And, you know, I also think kind of cuts down on any sort of potential of people going, how long they refuse things to stick with the employer. No, this isn't talking about, you know, this is talking about, you know, genuine and good faith. Not, I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna say I don't want to do it. So that's, anything else they left out, just in general on either that or other items or other questions that folks have?
Any other questions for him? At this point, since we're still working on budget, I don't know if we want to make any proposals today. But we'll have one by, what do we have to have it by the 9th?
Whatever
10
the 2
days.
weeks from today is,
Or
or,
10 days. Is
yeah, 10 more YouTube calendar.
that okay with everybody?
And well, Gavin, like I said, we can discuss it as a board, not even in a closed session, we can do it outside, it's exempt, not just. We don't even have to go to a closed session to do it, like, not in public meetings. So, we can stick around afterwards and talk about it too.
And if you need to get a hold of us with a clarifying, I've got cards, but you guys know how to get a hold of these guys. And I can send some kind of stuff economically that might kind of clarify maybe or disagreement on some cost of living stuff around that Article 14 proposal too.
I've got something too, I mean, it has nothing to do with this, but when you guys get calls from the public, and I know you do,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and, you know, it's come back to me that you said, well, there's nothing we can do to that guy, they're union.
I don't think that's being said.
I didn't say that.
No, I think we did.
I've heard it, I mean,
I'd like to know who said that, if it involves me, because I'm home.
well, the thing is, that shouldn't have any bearing on it.
I had-
We've
I
got
had
new
someone call me-
employees here that are learning how to run Maintainer, and some of them only run it for a month or two already.
Well, is it,
And we need the supervisor to
Well,
be
and this is, on
supportive, you
the
know.
other
Well, yeah.
side, I had one guy that called me that told me that he stopped a maintainer guy, and the maintainer guy said he was never trained.
Yeah,
And that's probably not true. He
well,
probably was
he's
trained.
right. He's probably right.
The guy was putting a maintainer and never trained.
There's the key.
Remember when I asked Nick that when they hired him, I said, you're putting him right in a maintainer right away.
These guys should have been hired back early fall to learn how to run it.
I had someone
So
call
it would
me,
be a guy that's ran a maintainer before. How do you get a maintainer and just drive it?
You're doing very well. You don't do a good job.
you can't hire somebody, or you can't, nope. I argue this. I argued with this guy, he goes, how do you have them trained to be in a blizzard? How do you train somebody to be in a blizzard until you have a blizzard?
But the thing is, you gotta train somebody to run it before the blizzard.
But I mean, you can't tell them how to run a D-blade unless you have snow. That's a
Yeah,
whole different cat.
Kevin, I got the maintainer in January when I first got hired. I got hired in October, never run a maintainer before. Got in it in January, and I maxed out by the end of the
But I mean,
month on comp time.
pushing gravel and snow is a way different thing.
That's just it. So when I come to spring, I didn't know how to run a maintainer.
I mean, I've never ran into one, but I've heard the snow.
The fact that somebody did and you're carrying that forward to these guys, it's, as well.
I think it'd be a phone call, but without the public, we get those comments. Yeah, we went out of the way to call me, I guess.
Most people that lived through the 70s said you guys did a great job.
That's just it.
They're the ones that want the
I
calls.
was gonna say, Benji, you wouldn't know anything about the seventies.
So that was like, you
Ford
know, I had my
77.
house prepared and I got the DOT right by me. I could get out, but there was no reason for me to get out.
So if anyone has anything else,
Okay.
we're all ears, but, let's point out we're ever so slightly beyond your.
What can be done?
No, go ahead.
What can be done if somebody grabs hold of the machine or threatens an operator? Nothing?
Don't touch them. They'll sue you way before.
Well, I know, but I mean, I had a guy grab at me once.
If there's a
Report it to your direct supervisor, file a chain of command, and have them contact the sheriff.
Yeah, you don't have to take abuse, but
there can easily be a no contact.
yeah, it's just a bad thing because you can't touch back. I mean, you'll get more trouble than the other guy.
I had a guy that used to stop me all the time in the street.
Does it say that we went down and see?
No, I always fixed him because I just wait till I got to the
Hey, must be a very good suit.
That guy had to clean his driveway a lot. But, you know, there's a way to get them back. They just, you know, there's a way. They never pay. But that's Bob Martinson. I got out of that territory because I couldn't hardly deal with it. And I was a neighbor.
Because that's your neighbor.
Yeah, I grew up next to him. He'd stop me and scream, call me names. I'd have to tell him to shut up and get back to the house.
So we can hear from the two of you on follow-up dates then presumably?
Yep.
Okay, all right, appreciate that. So,
Well, next time we'll make sure we get it posted, we won't have a preliminary.
yeah. All right. Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks for your
You
time.
guys.
sorry,
What's up, Brady?
you use yours.
Oh,
2 minutes, nice.
Were you recessing?
bathroom breaking.
Really fast, I'll be.
No, we put it on recess though?
Yeah,
Just let it roll.
Let it roll.
Let it roll.
No, we're just letting it roll. We're not recessed. Oh, I should, we'll be 30 seconds, you're back out of recess. Because our next topic will be budget. Are you gonna do the other stuff? Okay. Stand corrected, we're doing it the way Randy wants to do it.
Hey, sometimes that's the best, way, right?
Take care, everybody.
See you
Yeah,
next.
take care.
Rita, tell you what, yes.
Haven't stopped you yet.
Are you guys going to the February 8th thing for supervisors?
The day before is supervisor at the Capitol Day, or county officials at the Capitol Day.
I think it's the 8th thing.
I was talking to a county, they've, no more Nelly?
No.
Now you're cold?
I don't know if there's a good song.
So the 8th is the Thursday, that's,
Yeah, I gotta think, I gotta have hogs invited on that day, so.
probably something you have to register for, you know, right?
Yeah, but I think you can still get in. But I was talking to Hardin County, they said every state official should go to the Capitol the day before and say thanks for House File 718. Right now, I give kudos to all the auditors I've talked to. They were so nice to talk with. They're all very polite, answer my questions.
She told me we should have one of that
Hey.
I just say how lucky we are to have Brandy. so.
Okay, consideration approval, Iowa County Transportation's request to hire, I can say his name right, from here.
Yeah.
Greg Meyer.
I make a motion to approve the hire by the Iowa County Transportation.
For a second. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion approved. Engineer office data cable change order.
We're taking the lowest bid.
Yeah.
I make a motion to,
What?
oh, we had it on email.
Yeah, somebody, I saw it from somebody.
The low bid was Mayberry.
Yep.
We gotta have it, so I make a motion to accept Mayberry's bid for the cable line change order for the engineer's office.
I'll second. So.
I'll tell you what it was.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion approved.
Want me just to email it to you?
Sure. Thank you.
And then as soon as Brandy gets caught up, we'll pop back up to budget. And with the good news is Brandy Hickson.
We can take a picture of that and frame that smile we got over there. Holy buckets.
Is there any good news?
Yes.
Yeah, there is. So in your packet. So what's highlighted in yellow
Yes.
is where I have proposed levy rates. This is where our percentages are, and then some proposed.
20.
11 was an issue as well.
Should we do any more looking at here?
No.
I know a couple people called Cass County.
So where's the ending fund balance?
There was, I'll get to that.
So
We're
19,
like 20%.
20,
We talked to,
and 21.
I'll get to that.
that's all I heard.
Yeah.
Once we have this.
So-
Projected.
That 1.3 that we discovered in the revenues
Yeah.
was also in the expenses. But there was also the 1.28,
Three-year plan.
which was the actual
If things come
amount that we had
together, we'll see it.
received for that bond.
We should be looking.
And the 1.3 was what we budgeted last year, because we didn't obviously know
It's
what the
been
exact
by-
amount that we would receive was going to be.
Because we're gonna
So
streamline these
I was
things.
able to reestimate that.
So,
It's
I knew
rural.
something had to be hinged around that 1.3.
Way faster
Yeah,
than
that
one.
do with that.
I'm like, what
We
are
were
you
just-
describing all iron
And
topics, you
I
know?
was so focused on
Sorry.
looking for revenues.
No, it's okay, I just wanna do some quick math.
Tax related revenues that you have to put in. And
So that expense had to be moved to the previous year to be covered by the 1 point.
no, it just needed to be re-estimated at 0.
Okay,
Because it was also budgeted, the 1.286, whatever, was budgeted plus 1.3.
oh, okay.
That's the-
So when do you find that out?
Monday night,
Oh,
I was
Did you jump up and down?
scouring.
how many times did you?
I might have been a little
She
excited.
dried your tears and then
I may have been a little excited,
How many
but,
times did you go over and go, oh my God?
you know, I kept looking at it and, well, so you see my note, I wrote the line items down, I wrote the amounts down, and a giant question mark, like, okay, am I seeing this right? Maybe I'm not seeing this right. Maybe I need to have someone else look at this, but it was late Monday night, and so yesterday I went over it with Cindy, and she agreed, so.
And then with some people turning in budget reductions.
Yes,
Will help the ending fund for this year.
and with regards to.
is that on this?
I will need to do a budget amendment
To take-
eventually.
To take it away.
Mhm.
Because otherwise they can still use it.
Right.
And that's the whole point, is we're counting on it not being.
So what will that money go then back to the general? So it's out of their line item?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, whatever fund they took it,
But I mean,
or
doesn't-
whatever fund it
Yeah, this doesn't disappear.
correlates to.
Do we have a list of what people were able to tear down?
public health
That's
tear
a
down
list,
a
but I
chunk.
have-
Healthcare,
Public health, yeah, with that nurse that they had hired.
okay, that helps.
And the sheriff-
Conservation, I know jumped in.
and the sheriff. did
And I didn't even re-estimate those yet, just because they weren't funds that. were-
That affect us on that, yeah.
Like we're paid, 8 candidates now for conservation.
Oh, I think you're running out of time when they take them. Aren't you about time now?
February 8th.
Oh, you got a long time.
We redid it for another month,
Oh,
because the conservationists had a big thing down in Cornwall last week. Had a big convention, so we had to talk to that.
Well, I have.
That's where I got the last two
I just
candidates
have
from.
to
It'd be nice
figure
to
out
see
what
who,
pile they're
see
in.
who pitched in.
Yeah.
It would be nice to see who pitched in. Yeah, that's all. I'd like to see that. Did we have some response from all departments? I know Rob sent us something that,
That was,
oh, that's for next fiscal
I knew I
year.
had them up here, I just. So the health department, theirs was, right around 100,000, right over 100,000.
Sweet.
Ambulance had some. I had some,
Dylan,
he brought his to me today, so I haven't had a chance to re-estimate anything that he brought yet.
Did he have significant ones? you think?
I think he said 38,000. 39,000.
Didn't get deposited.
it sure looks nicer than like 9%.
Yeah. O2 looks a lot better than it did. I did move, EMA, I split that payment. I took, instead of taking it all out of O2, I took 100, I budgeted to do 150 out of O2 and 500 out of O1, which you guys don't really care about that. That's more clerical on our end as far as making sure it gets paid out of the right fund.
Yeah.
But it's time to pay them.
Um,
That kind of.
was there any reduction that we've seen from EMA?
they haven't done
Not
their.
received anything.
Okay.
So I just did some quick math. In the rural, or the supplemental fund is a $412,000 increase in property taxes. The rural, 174,000, total of 587,000, which is a 6% increase from last year.
So that's where you're talking this, rural where it's 2 0.7 and 2.9.
I took that 0.2 times the valuation for that, and then I did the 0.36 times the valuation in the supplemental.
I think we can definitely live with that.
I don't think that's too bad, to be honest. What's everyone else think?
Not with what the cost of everything has gone this last year, so like year and a half.
Right.
Well, and you look in the past, it's still less than, some of them in the past 10 years.
Past 3 years.
But they had different valuations. Think about
No, I
how much
mean,
valuation they've gone up.
It's less than these ones here in the past 10 years in rural.
Yeah, but you had a lot less valuation.
Yeah.
So the race doesn't matter. It's just, it's how much we've levied on taxes is what I think personally we need to look at.
Like the grand total is still less than 2021.
And so if we think about that, what was that? I know it was at least 150,000, so 587. 26, 89, 400. So if I do, like Kevin, what you were talking about, sorry, now I'm gonna point at you.
Not time.
So you know how our valuations went down, so we had to recoup. Some of this is just making up for the lack of valuation, right? That's only 4.5% increase then on property taxes. It's still a 6% increase, but 4.5% is due to increased budget. 1.5% of that is,
Valuation loss.
so I would be okay with this.
With the rollback.
Yeah. We'll write that down so I know that.
That's wrong.
Say that again.
4.5% would be due to increase in budgets.
Increase in budget.
1.5% of that increase, 1.5 of that increase is to make up for lack of loss of valuation.
That's just in rural, and that's all together.
That would be in the supplemental fund. The rural, I didn't calculate, it's not as big of a valuation, so I didn't run that, but.
So we're keeping it at 3%, basically.
Actually, no,
Internalized.
John, that's general fund, loss of valuation. Was that, no, I did general and supplemental. Those are two numbers, because one was like 48,000, one was 100,000. So, I mean, that's not bad. We're only really going 4.5 increase on expense.
Are we willing to go forward with this?
I'd still like EMA to look at paring this down a little bit better,
Okay, so
but yes.
I would
overall.
go ahead with this, and if you can get it to pare it down, you have money for cushion.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm just saying,
Okay. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
You don't want, everything down the bare bones is good until you have a problem.
yeah. No, I think I could go
So we
ahead
have to keep in mind that an amendment takes a little bit of time and.
Right, that's what I'm trying to,
and we still need to figure out if this fits into House File 2.
It does.
It does? Okay. Did they give you a calculator tool from ISAC to run that with?
It's on the department management, it's part of my,
Great, okay.
so since this is a work session, we can't make any motions to adopt this, or what's the next? To send it to public hearing?
We gotta have, what, 2 public hearings? Waive the third if somebody protests.
yeah, do that. Budget. Levy notice, whatever, hearing.
Does somebody have to mail all the stupid letters out?
How much is that costing us this year?
What's that?
How much is it, all the mailings costing us this year for different things?
I think I looked it up and it's 9,600-ish notices that'll have to go out.
And we're hiring that done, right? Do you know what they're gonna charge us the pop?
I don't have that up here with me.
It's gonna cost close to, it's gonna be $1 a piece, wouldn't
I would think at least.
it? Like envelope stamps. Just guessing.
How many will we get open now?
Maybe we should put return address lottery commission.
Oh, yeah, I'll have to look.
Everybody will,
Our
wouldn't it?
next step, the next official step will be, because when we have the public hearing for the max levy. The levy hearing, that has to be set outside of a regular board meeting. It can't be done during a board meeting. I know.
Remember, because he said we still have some money to contingency to do blinds or something.
Yeah. Okay. I just don't want.
That's the way I understood it.
It's shortfall here.
Maybe we have to check in with Mark and say, hey, what do we owe yet on this project?
Well, that's just what he told us the other day. I mean, that's.
Well, you might have contingency money, but that might not mean the project's paid for.
I'm gonna shoot him an email and ask him, or should we just wait?
I think she'll shoot it to him because I'm sure he's not gonna answer you immediately.
Okay.
If he does, good up for you.
Maybe that's what we could have for Friday.
I could look at their last invoice too. It's just not scanned yet, so.
So Friday, if I could get out of here by noon to make that other meeting up in Cedar Rapids.
I have no idea why we wouldn't be out of here by noon.
I don't, yeah, I'd like to be on
Well,
the air, I gotta leave for.
How many people do we have wanting to come in and speak on the LEC proposition in order to the paper? Because I've gotten hammered on it.
On what?
I only got one call.
I haven't
I,
either. About
Yeah.
what?
Maringo, the joint law enforcement.
Oh.
proposal.
So anybody that's talked
Well,
to me, I said that's very, very preliminary.
Yeah.
That's what I've been
That's-
trying to tell people too.
that's a communications thing, you're not gonna come in on our agenda, you're limited to 2 minutes, even though,
Okay,
I'm on the same subject.
yeah,
So we can have 8 people talking.
yeah,
about the
so
same thing.
that's not gonna be an issue.
I didn't know if anybody's asked for it to be on the agenda.
We ain't even in the.
I wouldn't allow it to be on the agenda yet personally, and I,
I said, what's an exploratory? I don't know how you class pipe dream, we're just
That's how
it's
I've
an
been.
idea that's thrown out in the